The date is the 28th of April. A Metropolitan Police constable is arrested in Harlow. His name is PC Kashif Mahmood. He is 32 years old. He is a serving officer badge, warrant card, the full weight of institutional authority behind him. Routine procedure follows. You search the suspect's property, you look for evidence, and when Anti-Corruption Command search his workplace, not his home, his locker, inside a police station they find a notebook. The notebook contains addresses, not suspects, not known associates, not operational intelligence. Addresses belonging to two individuals who had already reported a crime, two cash couriers who had already been robbed. On the 25th of March and the 28th of March, they reported what happened to the police, and the addresses they gave in good faith, the information they handed over at the point of being a victim, were written in a notebook, in a locker, belonging to a serving Metropolitan Police constable. And that same morning, investigators were also looking at a bank account, an account PC Mahmood holds jointly with his wife, into which £35,000 had been deposited. We'll come back to that number. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a warrant card ends up on the wrong side of a robbery. Welcome to UK True Crime Files. If you've been following the EncroChat cases on this channel, this one connects dots you didn't know needed connecting. Stay with me. Let's establish the full picture before we go any further. The alleged conspiracy runs from the 1st of January 2020 to the 8th of July 2020. 6 months, 5 defendants. And the first thing you need to understand is that, at the time of the alleged offences, PC Kashif Mahmood was not a former officer, not a suspended officer, not a trainee. He was serving, operational, a Metropolitan Police constable, based in Harlow. His co-defendants, as charged, are Johan Gergel, 34, from Stratford, Mohsin Khan, 36, from Ilford, and the Shabazz brothers, both charged alongside Mahmood with conspiracy to acquire criminal property. The Shabazz brothers face additional charges: possession of 20 kilograms of cannabis with intent to supply, and at the time of their arrest, they were found in possession of £50,000 in cash. The investigation was brought by the Metropolitan Police's own Directorate of Professional Standards, specifically its Anti-Corruption Command. This is the unit that exists for one purpose: to find officers who have crossed the line. Their involvement signals from the outset that this is not a peripheral matter. This is the institution, looking at itself. According to the prosecutor, Lisa Rowe, the Crown's position is this: a serving police officer was recruited by an organised crime group involved in the supply of Class A and Class B drugs, and was used to intercept cash belonging to other criminal networks. That word recruited is doing a lot of work in this case. It implies process, intent, a decision made on someone's part to identify, approach, and bring in a serving officer as a functional participant. Not incidentally, not accidentally, deliberately. One serving constable, 4 co-defendants, 6 months, and a prosecution that says he wasn't incidentally involved, he was recruited. But this wasn't simply money changing hands in a car park. What the Crown alleges actually happened on the streets of East London, in the middle of a pandemic, is something else entirely. Here is a detail that prosecutors say belongs in this case, and which I want you to sit with. PC Mahmood is alleged to have travelled to Dubai not once, but on multiple occasions within the period of the alleged conspiracy. He allegedly made these trips with his co-defendants, a serving police officer, travelling to Dubai, with men who now sit beside him in the dock. Which brings us back to £35,000, the deposit we mentioned in the opening. Now that you have more context, let's reframe it. The Crown identifies 6 incidents beyond the one directly connected to that deposit. The alleged total, across all of them, runs into hundreds of thousands of pounds. What we know about as a figure, what investigators could trace, or could prove, is 35,000. That number is going to matter again later in this video. Hold it. Then there is the camera footage. In one of the alleged incidents, one of the Shabazz brothers is seen approaching a vehicle, He is dressed in what appears to be police clothing, including a stab vest. He appears, according to the prosecution, to attempt to stop the vehicle. He is not a police officer. He is in a stab vest. Dubai trips with co-defendants, a 5-figure deposit, and a man in a stab vest who is not a police officer, appearing to stop a car. The question prosecutors are now putting to the jury is whether the real police officer in this story was a witness to this or a participant. Let's talk about the scale of what the Crown is alleging. This was not, according to prosecutors, an opportunistic arrangement. It was not improvised. It was, in the prosecution's framing, a structured operation. Cash couriers, individuals transporting money on behalf of serious criminal networks, were identified, tracked, stopped, and robbed across 6 identified incidents. Hundreds of thousands of pounds, in aggregate, allegedly taken. If you've ever watched Line of Duty and found yourself asking, is this realistic? Does a serving officer actually end up actively working for organized crime, not just taking a bribe, but allegedly embedded, recruited, operational? Because according to the Crown, it happened in East London in 2020, during a pandemic, when the streets were quiet, law enforcement resources were stretched, and most of us were at home watching television about fictional corrupt officers, while an allegedly real one was, prosecutors say, on the other side of the city, doing something that is now a charge sheet. The institutional weight of this cannot be understated. It was the Metropolitan Police's own anti-corruption command that brought this case, not an independent watchdog, not a whistleblower. That is both a credit to the unit that did the investigating and a very uncomfortable fact about how the compromise allegedly went undetected for 6 months. The stab vest, the Dubai trips, the cash, a serving officer, and an encrypted phone network that its users believed was invisible. EncroChat. If you've watched the other videos on this channel, you already know the broad shape of this. If you haven't, here is the short version. Modified handsets, standard smartphone functions removed, end-to-end encryption, sold and operated almost exclusively within serious organized crime networks across Europe. It was, for a while, very nearly what its users believed it to be: invisible. In April 2020, and note that date, because it falls directly within the alleged conspiracy period, in this case French and Dutch intelligence agencies, operating through Europol, successfully compromised the EncroChat network. Tens of millions of messages were extracted. That data was passed to the UK's National Crime Agency and, from there, distributed to relevant forces. The Metropolitan Police received it. The Anti-Corruption Command reviewed it. And according to the prosecution, inside those messages, communications sent on a platform that was supposed to be uncrackable between individuals who believed they were untraceable was a name, PC Kashif Mahmood's name. In conversations involving his co-defendants, discussing him as a participant, not as a victim, not as someone mentioned incidentally or without his knowledge, as a participant. The prosecution's position is that those messages describe a willing participant, not someone coerced, not someone incidentally named, but someone who was allegedly in it. French and Dutch intelligence crack the network. The data comes to the Met, and inside those messages, prosecutors allege, is the name of one of their own officers. When they arrested PC Mahmood on the 28th of April, he gave a statement, and in that statement, he told a story that was very different from the one prosecutors say those phones tell. PC Mahmood's position, as stated on arrest, is that he acted under duress. I want to be precise here, because this distinction matters legally, and it matters morally. He is not claiming he didn't know. He is not claiming he was unaware of what was happening around him. He is claiming that any involvement was coerced, that he was not a willing participant, but someone placed under pressure that removed genuine choice from the equation. The prosecution disputes that account entirely. The EncroChat material, they say, tells a different story, one in which the word prosecutors chose was willing. Both positions are before the court. This is an active trial, and neither claim is a verdict. But then there is the locker. We've been building towards this since the opening. A Metropolitan Police constable is arrested. Anti-Corruption Command searches his place of work. They find a notebook, and in the notebook are 2 addresses, both belonging to individuals who had already filed reports about being robbed. A report on the 25th of March, a report on the 28th. 2 victims, 2 addresses, given in good faith to the police, written down, in a locker, inside a police station, belonging to a man now charged with conspiring with the group prosecutors say was responsible for those robberies. Let that breathe for a moment. A victim reports a crime to the police, provides their address as you would, and according to prosecutors, the address they gave in good faith ended up in the possession of someone allegedly connected to the people who robbed them. Now the 3rd time we return to £35,000. We mentioned it cold at the start. We reframed it against the full scale of the alleged operation. Here is the 3rd framing. That figure is what investigators could trace, or what they could prove. Across 6 further incidents, the alleged total runs into hundreds of thousands. 35,000 is a number with a paper trail. It is not necessarily the whole number. Either interpretation, incomplete evidence, or partial payment should give you pause. All 5 defendants, PC Kashif Mahmood, Yohan Gurgel, Mohsin Khan, and the Shabazz brothers, indicated not guilty pleas. All 5 were remanded in custody. Their next appearance is listed for the 5th of August, at Southwark Crown Court. And here I want to stop and say something directly, because it matters both legally and as a basic principle. These are allegations. This is an active case before the courts. PC Mahmood and all of his co-defendants are innocent until proven guilty. The prosecution has outlined its case, and a jury has not yet heard it in full, let alone returned a verdict. Nothing in this video is a finding of guilt, and it should not be taken as one. The Crown's case, as outlined by Lisa Rowe, is that a serving police officer was recruited by an organized crime group involved in the supply of Class A and Class B drugs and used to intercept cash from other criminal networks. That is the prosecution's opening position. It is not an established fact. PC Mahmood remains suspended from duty. Something about the way this case sits alongside others has been nagging at me since I first read it. I'll get to that in a moment. But drop what you're thinking in the comments right now. I want to know whether we're landing in the same place. If you're asking how a serving officer ends up here allegedly recruited, allegedly operating, allegedly keeping a notebook full of victims' addresses inside his police locker, you're asking the right question. And unfortunately, it's a question the Metropolitan Police has had to ask before. The Metropolitan Police's Directorate of Professional Standards and its Anti-Corruption Command exist because the institution has accepted, structurally, that corruption from within is not a theoretical risk. It is a live and recurring one. The unit's existence is not a reassurance in isolation. It is an acknowledgement. Operation Venetic, the NCA-led operation processing the UK's share of the EncroChat data, had, by 2021, produced more than 2,700 arrests and the seizure of over £54 million in cash. The Mahmood case is one node in a network of prosecutions that is still generating results, still working through the courts, still producing names. Around the same period, separately, a different officer came before the courts. Benjamin Hannam, 21 years old, a probationary constable in the Metropolitan Police, was found to have been a member of National Action, a proscribed far-right terrorist organization. He was convicted of failing to disclose that membership on his police application form. Different charges, a different mechanism, a different kind of corruption entirely, but the same institution, and the same fundamental question about how someone gets through the door or stays inside it when they should not be there. Now the 4th and final time we return to £35,000. That deposit is not just a line on a charge sheet, placed alongside the Hannam conviction, alongside the wider EncroChat yield, alongside the cases still making their way through the courts. It starts to look less like an isolated data point, and more like a symptom of something that no public statement, no restructure, and no anti-corruption command has yet fully resolved. And before we move on, I want to note something about the victims in this case specifically, the cash couriers who were robbed, and I want to be precise here. These were individuals operating within criminal networks, transporting money with no legitimate origin. 2 of them reported what happened to the police, in good faith, presumably without knowing where that information would travel. I think that is worth sitting with. There are questions in this case that no charge sheet answers. How does the alleged recruitment of a serving officer by an organized crime group go undetected? Not for days, but for 6 months. What does the vetting process look like at the point of joining the police? And what active monitoring exists during service? These are not rhetorical questions. They have been asked after every previous scandal and answered incompletely every single time. Then there is the legal question surrounding the evidence itself. Several defendants in EncroChat-related UK prosecutions have mounted admissibility challenges, arguing that the means by which the data was gathered by French and Dutch intelligence renders it inadmissible in British courts. Those challenges have produced mixed results, and the law in this area is still being actively contested. It is not settled. In a case where the EncroChat material appears to form a central pillar of the prosecution's case, that is a live and unresolved legal question, not a footnote. And across Operation Venetic more broadly, how many other officers across UK forces were identified through the same dataset? What happened to those cases? Which of them are still pending? These questions are not answered in the public record. There is a reason we talk about trust in UK public institutions slightly differently than we did 20 years ago. Not with outrage exactly, more with a particular kind of tiredness, a tiredness that has been earned. And the question no official body has answered to the public's full satisfaction. Not after this case, not after Hannam, not after the broader EncroChat yield is this. A warrant card is a specific object. In the United Kingdom, it is the physical item that grants a police officer the legal authority to stop you, search you, enter your home, and restrict your freedom. It is issued on the basis of public trust. There is no alternative basis on which it can be issued. Trust is the entire foundation. According to the prosecution in this case, that card and the authority it carried was allegedly used not to protect cash couriers from being robbed, but to make robbing them easier. The case remains before the courts. EncroChat is still producing prosecutions. Anti-Corruption Command continues its work, and each time a case like this surfaces, the same question surfaces with it and is never quite answered to anyone's satisfaction. £35,000, a notebook, a stab vest on the wrong man, a phone network that was supposed to be invisible. We ask a lot of the police. We have to. There is no version of a functioning society where we don't. So what do you do? What do we do when the person you were supposed to call was part of the problem all along?